What is a jewelry design center?
JDC is a family-owned business with deep roots in Montana. Why Montana? Because this community made us. Made us family, made us artisans, made us believe in love, made us hometown heroes. Because this community made us shine. Why Montana? Because Montana is home.
Cash One Pawn, Missoula's #1 pawn shop.
You want money? We got money. You need money? We got money. We're cash.
Do yourself a favor and make Cash One Pawn part of your online shopping habits. Cash One Pawn has an awesome online inventory, everything from firearms to power tools to speaker equipment to jewelry. Visit Cash One Pawn today.
Cash One Pawn.
8720 Roller Coaster Road, CashOnePawn.com.
Yo, Tara, what up, E?
What's going on? Man, those are some nice medals.
Yeah, man, these are hard to come by.
Yeah, well, I've got 2 of them.
Well, that's nothing like going to March Madness, though.
We did go to a national championship.
Okay, guys, whatever. Let's just get on the Montana party bus and head over to Press Box for lunch.
Yo.
Nuanez now and Skyline Sports, covering Montana athletics and the Big Sky Conference better than anybody. The Montana Party Bus and the Press Box are also proud supporters of Montana athletes.
Hey, cheers to you guys, man. Cheers to Montana. Cheers to chasing more championships.
Well, do you think that your dear father knows how to access, as he would call it, our program on the YouTube?
If you said it's on YouTube, you got to go find it. It would be a half day, but he'd get there.
I was just thinking if we could get away with teasing him.
Yeah.
If he was going to see this, because I sent you the email invite for this Tuesdays with Tootell, and he said I don't see it, and I was going to say the standard Chris Tootell. It's pinging around up there. It's
shooting around outer space, waiting, looking for a home. It'll get there. Yeah,
takes a couple 10, 12, 15 minutes.
Yeah. That's my father, and I don't think he's alone as a gentleman of 75 in that. And frankly, I don't know that he's even wrong in some instances, but if he doesn't see it, it's certainly not on his end. We're just waiting for the satellites to connect, buddy.
Oh, that's so good. I was with my mom the other day, and she's been pretty good about keeping up with it. And we were hanging out, and she's like, I was telling her about something I had watched on Netflix, and I was like, you should get it. I'll even get your Netflix subscription. We can add you to our deal. It's no big deal. It's only $7 extra. I'd totally pay for yours so you can watch some stuff. And she's like, you know what? I just don't want to. It's like, I just don't want to learn something new. I don't want to. I have plenty of stuff to watch. And I was like, you know what? God bless you. Because I don't want to either. And
just get those rabbit ears up and get the 4 channels you can get and call it good.
That's right. Tuesdays with Tootell here on the Big Sky Breakdown. We're actually doing this on a Tuesday, so look.
Hey,
we're on time, on schedule for the first time in a couple weeks. Okay, so I sent you the whole outline, but we gotta defend ourselves this week. Mostly, I just think this is so funny because this has been like the story of my career, and I think it's what happens when you're the guy or like the entity that positions themselves as a company to cover Montana and Montana State. And so anyways, it's just we're only 4 weeks into the season, and last week we got some blowback about how we have too much Grizz stuff, not enough Cat stuff. But then we also got some Cat people saying we don't have enough, or we had some Grizz fans saying, that we're big Cat fans. It's just super funny. We just had some comments.
So you're doing it right.
No. It's right.
How about this? The Cats and Grizz both blew out bad teams. Actually, the Cats didn't blow out a bad team, but they won in a shutout. Let's say it like that.
Yeah.
And Montana got back on the horsey. And I think Indiana State has lost by a combined 138-7 in the last 2 weeks or something. It's just oh my Lord, the poor Sycamores. Yeah. Larry Bird, we need a GM at that school ASAP. Let's go.
Well, people keep asking, who's better? That's what everybody wants to know. Who's better, the Cats or the Grizz? And as you so eloquently said last week, we have no clue now we get to start knowing, right? Like
We get to
I don't expect Eastern to be that good, but that's still a real opponent. That's
absolutely
a Division I team, and if the Cats boat race them, that's impressive. If Eastern gives them a fight, that's impressive. Like there's just so many things we're going to learn. And same thing with Idaho coming to Missoula as well. It starts now. The analysis of like who's better and who's trending in the right directions. It starts on Saturday.
Yeah, I agree. And the other thing is, even if I don't think there is a team between Montana and Montana State that is clearly better than the other one at this moment, even just in terms of watching them play and all of that. But even if there was, it wouldn't matter.
Right.
in a certain way, like there's a lot of distance between here and, mid-November when you talk about what might happen. Obviously, you talk about health-wise, but also just improvement week over week, maybe stagnation week over week, and guys figuring it out, guys maybe getting marginally better, guys getting a lot better. And so, it's all we're, going to do a weekly analysis of both teams, of course. And there's always going to be compare and contrast. But to do it in the moment is only flagging for the future. But I do like the fact that I can sit here and honestly say, I don't know who's better between the Bobcats and Grizzlies. I do not know.
No doubt. And, for all the Cat people last week, they were pushing back that they said that you and I and several of the other people talked too much about the North Dakota game instead of the Cats getting their first win. And my pushback would be, one, I was gone. You were at the North Dakota game, so we have to kind of talk about where you were. and secondly, I actually didn't think Mercyhurst was going to be worth a damn. So we did sort of gloss over the preview part of that game because you're coming off of a non-scholarship win over San Diego that you're supposed to have if you're the Cats. And then you have Mercyhurst coming to town. All the credit in the world to Mercyhurst for actually making that a football game. But either way, we got Big Sky action on the docket now. So now we're going to dive all the way into both of these teams.
Well, let's go ahead and do that. Yeah, if we didn't analyze San Diego and Mercyhurst enough, not sorry.
Well, right. And the pendulum always swings one way or the other, right? Like,
yeah.
Grizz were losing 5 games down the stretch last year, and the Cats were winning 15 in a row. I think there was.
All right, let's get into it. So, what do we want to talk about? Colter?
Okay, so first of all, I got to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah,
there is such a disparity in the way that scheduling works, and part of that is just completely circumstantial. So I don't know what you do to change the circumstance. That said, Idaho State and Portland State are a couple of the 2 schools in the Big Sky that have to play these completely monstrous schedules out the gates. And now that there's an extra non-conference game, it's another date to fill. So if you're Idaho State, you've already had to play UNLV and New Mexico, squeezing in Southern Utah in there to get yourself a like FCS game. But you wanted to have a win, so you go and schedule somebody. Well, the team that you can afford, that the team you can beat, is Lincoln College out of California, and you beat them 90-0. This is very reminiscent of a couple of years ago when Portland State beat North American 92-0, and they were up 92-0 going into the 4th quarter. So Bruce Barnum told me it was the worst, and he didn't say worst. It was the most miserable game he's ever coached in because he's like, well, I don't want to score 125 points on somebody. That's going to make national headlines. That's just silly. But is there a remedy for the existence of these games, or is this just sort of the state of affairs that we live in currently with the haves and have-nots in the Big Sky Conference?
Yeah, there's a remedy. Don't schedule them. I mean, if you have another open date, like, are you getting more out of beating a worse than varsity high school team that you did some kind of game plan for and went out and just shattered 90-0 than you would just doing a full self-scout a quarter of the way into the season with your own guys or whatever? Like, I realize it's another game, but like you said, there's an additional week on the schedule. So it's not like you're -1 from the norm.
Right.
But I don't know. Like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like, okay, as an athletic director, here's the calls that you make. This is the way that you go about it. But I got to believe that there's a way. Like, either you leave it open or you just find somebody else.
Well, here's the 2
thoughts.
But
You can't do this.
Here's the 2 thoughts I had. One, a lot of this is predicated on the fans. Like, this is the deal with Montana. Like, when people say, oh man, the Grizz scheduled a bunch of cupcakes. Well, guess what? There was 26,500 people at the stadium on Saturday, right? The week before, same deal. Like if you're selling all the tickets, that's what's dictating who you play. If you can sell out playing a game where you know you're going to roll, you're obviously going to pick the game where you're going to roll because it's not indicating the ticket sales. Idaho State, though, even they sold 6,200 tickets to this game. That's not a crazy amount, but that is a little bit of a revenue boost for their athletic department.
For sure. But also, Indiana State or San
No, right,
Diego
right.
are real football programs.
No, that's right.
They're Division I football teams. So, yeah, there's obviously a big gap, but that is not the same conversation.
No, exactly. I mean, Lincoln rushed for 7 yards on Saturday.
Yeah.
like what do we do? Okay, so my other thought was though, okay, if you're a team, you're a program that's financially strapped, and you need to schedule an easy win, and maybe you can't afford to, or you can't find an NCAA affiliated Division I or even Division II team to come play you. Find a regional NAIA team. Like Lincoln's not even competitive at the NAIA level. Call up Montana Tech. Like Montana Tech would be a way better game for Idaho State, or Montana Western, or Carroll. Like those would be way better games for Idaho State than Lincoln College.
I agree. I think it would be hard to find a worse situation. Like just about anything you do would be a step up somehow.
Yeah. Tuesdays with Tootell here on the Big Sky Breakdown. The Big Sky, they changed their scheduling, and they made the bye weeks. They basically stacked them in the middle of October. And they said, okay, we're going to have basically a third of the league on a bye this week, a third of the league on the bye this week, a third of the league on the bye this week. But then teams were allowed to schedule games in those bye weeks if they wanted to take their bye early. UC Davis and Montana were two that took their byes during the non-conference. Davis is actually an extra bye because they played week 0, but Montana took theirs week 1. What do you think of sort of the strategy? This is like an Alabama Nick Saban, right? Like instead of having your bye later on in the year, you schedule Gardner Webb 2 weeks before the Iron Bowl, so you have a tune-up. This is like Bobby Houck, instead of having a bye in the middle of the season, he's going to have a Sacred Heart, basically sacrifice at Washington Grizzlies Stadium. What do you think of just a couple of the main contenders in the Big Sky taking their byes early on?
Well, did they take the bye, or was it, these schedules come out several years ahead of time? Was it a week 1 game that was scheduled that fell off the schedule for some reason for Montana, and then that's why they filled? Because that would color this very differently for me if that had happened, where in 2019 when the 2025 schedule was put together, there was a week 1 opponent, and then sometimes those things just don't pan out for whatever reason. Here's what I'm going to say. If it is just a matter of choice, I don't understand the choice. Why you would obviously have a week 1 bye. And again, I don't think that was a quote unquote choice per se to move it from, the middle of October to the first week of the season. Bobby Houck even in his press conference said, we did not like not playing in week 1. But even that aside, to my lights, it seems like I would prefer to have a full bye, a full open week in, the middle of conference play, 2-3 weeks left in the season, both from a health standpoint and from a self-scout standpoint. I realize that there is, I think some coaches would probably argue like, hey, you want to keep playing. You want to keep into a rhythm, into a schedule. You want to keep preparing the game plan and sort of sharpening up what you're doing. And if you can do it against a team that you can go out and feel good about because you're going to win in convincing fashion, then that is nothing but a block builder for your team through the year. Fair enough. Like I can hear that argument. But to me, it seems like, hey, let's take a breath. Let's get all the way healthy as we can. It's been, 8, 9, 10 tough weeks to get to that point. And also, let's take some time and look in the mirror. How are we doing? What are our tendencies? Where are we too obvious? Where are we not obvious enough? Where can we make hay? And also, hey, let's get 2 weeks of prep in for the next big game. Or maybe we get an early week of prep in for the rivalry game when we're not prepping for another team, something like that. So I feel like that time could be really well used and valuable. And it seems to me, I'm not planting my flag here, soft opinion say that I would probably want to have an open date.
Yeah, I think that's right. Just perusing the various stories that were written about this basically came down to that the Indiana State game last week was the return of the home and home that they played in 2022 when they played in Terre Haute. The North Dakota game is I believe, third or fourth leg of they did a home, and home.
Yeah, they're going
North
back
Dakota,
and forth.
right?
Yeah,
Going
and it's
back and
the
forth.
Missouri Valley Big Sky Challenge.
Right.
Yeah.
And they had played in Grand Forks twice. They had not played in Missoula since Bobby Houck had been back.
Been a long time. Yeah.
That's actually another interesting tidbit. That was North Dakota was the only FCS team that Bobby Houck had ever played any games against that he hadn't beaten until they won that game by a single point 2 weeks ago. So that was pretty interesting.
There you go.
But I think that the last part here was that they had an opportunity to get Sacred Heart, but only in October. And that was the thing that was going to push them to the 8 home games. So they basically traded the bye for a record-setting 8th home game, which is, again, going to get you
and of course,
more revenue and all that.
I was speaking, obviously, from an only football standpoint. We know that the money is always going to talk. So, fair enough.
Yeah. Tuesday with Tootell, probably presented by Ryan Miller and Coburn Law. Ryan Miller and Coburn, your experts when it comes to anything criminal defense, medical malpractice, personal injury, wrongful death, or DUI. You can call them anytime, 406-542-2233, or visit online, rmcattorneys.com. What is more surprising to you, Ryan, with Eastern Washington coming to Bozeman to take Montana State on, or the revival of the Little Brown Stein, which by the way, we talked about this last year ad nauseum. So stupid that Montana and Idaho didn't play last year, but they're playing this year, playing on Saturday night. What is more surprising, though? Eastern Washington's fall from the ranks of the FCS elite, or Idaho's ascendance to be basically a perennial top 10 team over these last 3 or 4 years?
Well, to me, the more surprising thing is the fall of Eastern Washington. I think that the problem at Idaho was very obvious. Like it was a head coaching problem who was retained for far too long, and then tremendous administrative upheaval at the AD and presidential level at the university.
Right.
But the fervor and the interest and the care and the support for the Idaho Vandal athletics in general and for football is always there. And people who went away as soon as they felt they could buy back in, they got back in. And that's what you need to have a successful program at this level. And Idaho has that, no question. So once they got their ducks in a row in terms of leadership and coaching, then it doesn't surprise me that they were able to rise really quickly to the ranks of the top 10, in the country at the FCS level. And I think that's great. I mean, as a born and bred Montanan, I'd like to see Idaho lose every football game they ever play as a fan. But from a competitive and rivalry standpoint, it's great that they're good, and I mean, the game Saturday night in Missoula is going to be awesome. On Eastern Washington side, though, I mean, they were the class of the Big Sky, certainly offensively, obviously a complete juggernaut. Now, I'm going to say this, I'm going to put this caveat. I'm not convinced they're awful right now. I mean, they went on the road, first 3 weeks, lost road games in close fashion at Incarnate Word. Boise State was not very close, but they lost, obviously, at a nationally ranked FCS school at Boise State. FBS school, excuse me, rather. And then at Northern Iowa, who's, a very good team in their own right. And then they did win against Western Illinois. So they're playing really good competition all the way through the non-conference. The only home game they've had, they've won. So I think we talked about learning a lot about Montana and Montana State. I think we're going to learn a lot about Eastern Washington Saturday in Bozeman. So I'm looking forward to that. But the fact that this team has fallen the way they have and has had the just catastrophic losses in finances and support at the university level, and they've gone to Aaron Best. I mean, Aaron Best got to be in his 8th year, 8 years that he's been now at Eastern Washington.
This is his 9th season.
Went
Went to the national championship game year 2, went to the playoffs and had a great team as recently as 2021. And since then, 12-27. Since Eric Berrier walked out the door, 12-27 the overall record. And they've won just 8 conference games in the last 3+ years.
And like, this is a guy who is an Eastern Washington player, graduate, underling coach, head coach,
Lifer.
I mean, complete lifer. And I think donated or returned like 10% or something more even of his salary during COVID when there was no revenue to be had, and he's trying to like help, do this and that. So there's a lot of people who would not have done for that school and in that position what Aaron Best has done. But that said, the trend of the football team has been declining at best, and at some points just a straight nosedive for what was an absolute perennial powerhouse, and that covers multiple coaches, man. Like, that's not just one guy. Obviously, Bo Baldwin kind of was the linchpin for a stretch there, but he's not the only dude to get it done at Eastern, and so it does surprise me that they have been laid as low as they have.
Yeah, I think.
Thanks so much for listening to the Big Sky Breakdown podcast series and for tuning into our Skyline Sports YouTube channel. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe to both the podcast and all your various podcast hosted networks and to the YouTube channel as well. Thanks to our great partners, including Ryan Miller and Coburn Law. Ryan Miller and Coburn are ace attorneys, each with different expertise. Paul Ryan, the master when it comes to DUIs. Angie Miller, excellent in medical malpractice. Abigail Coburn, federal drug charges. She's the one you want defending you. They can help in any and all sorts of criminal defense cases. They have a live answering service that's available 24 hours a day, 406-542-2233. You can also visit rmcattorneys.com. Ryan and Miller and Coburn, your Montana attorneys. Let's hear from RMC right now. People hear criminal defense, medical malpractice, personal injury, wrongful death, DUIs. Might be a little broad for people, though. So let's go through it. Let's just give people examples of each of these types of cases. Start with medical malpractice, because I know that's one of your expertises.
Yeah, so medical malpractice, it can look like a doctor doing something wrong during a surgery. We've seen clients have something left inside of them after a surgery.
Wow.
A misdiagnosis from a doctor that they, miss, whether that be an infection or diagnosing some sort of illness, and then that individual having to live with that and having more damages because of that misdiagnosis. Wrongful death, personal injury, those can overlap, whether it's somebody gets in a car accident and, lose their life, or they're in a car accident and, they have what seem to be minor injuries at first, oftentimes can develop into something more. I mean, we have a lot of people who will call us and say, I don't even know if I need an attorney. My neck hurts, my back hurts, I think I'm just sore. But then come to find out they actually have a bulging disc or a fractured disc in their back and they need surgery. As for the criminal side, DUI is fairly straightforward. People, driving under the influence, but sometimes that doesn't just look like alcohol. It can be drugs involved as well. And then for the criminal side, we really see a multitude of things, whether that be assault, getting into some heavier stuff like, sexual intercourse without consent. We see the whole, gamut there and are ready to help people.
Industry since I was in college. One of the things I think we take the most pride in is Aspen Sound's been such a presence in Missoula for almost 40 years. The cool parts about our job is people always ask me, what do you do for a living? I sell fun. Whether it's as simple as window tint all the way up to integrating a backup camera into a factory screen. I'm usually pretty excited about the options we can present.
Yeah, I think that the two factors that are so wild to me, one, Eastern's always had to schedule super tough because of just the financial realities of it.
Yeah.
But they would always go and give one of those FBSs a great game or even win that. I mean, they beat Oregon State that one year. They took Washington all the way down the wire and lost like 52-49. Obviously, those teams were of much higher quality. You had all-time great players like Vernon Adams and Cooper Kupp on those teams. But I think that one dynamic that's really impeded them is that they've got sort of avalanched by these tough non-conferences, and then they've had a hard time digging out, right? Like right now, I agree with you. I think they might be pretty solid, kind of good, but they're 1-3 and they're staring 1-4 right in the face because they got to go to Bozeman. That's tough to rally from. The other part that's just totally perplexing, though, is I mean, Aaron Best went to the national championship when Eric Berrier was a sophomore, and then went to the playoffs a couple more times when Eric Berrier was a starting quarterback, and Eric Berrier was just the latest in a long line of ridiculous quarterbacks. And they had this formula that they instituted with Paul Wolf in the early 2000s. And Bo Baldwin was the OC. Then Baldwin takes over. And it's like the combination of the run and shoot and the spread and all these different things. Single back, old school Dennis Erickson stuff. It gave them this niche. Their niche was not just the red turf. It wasn't they threw for 5,000 yards a year. It's that they had receivers that were catching 20 touchdowns. Now you can go to the guys that fall through the cracks at Washington State and say, hey, come to Cheney. It's not that bad. We score 50 points a game. This is not fun. I don't know why they went away from that. I just always have wondered, like, how much of that is because Best, he is an offensive lineman. He does want to run the ball. I also think that there's a part of it where the way that they lost those elite teams. I mean, Cooper Kupp's team lost in a frigid ice storm against a Youngstown State team that just battered them with the run game. They lost to Townsend when they had Terrence West. They lost on their own home field in the playoffs multiple times when they were national championship level good because it got cold, and then their offense didn't work on the Palouse there in Cheney. So it's just a weird deal. But either way, losing in the semifinals and not being able to get over the top is a heck of a lot better than going 3-9. So and they kind of went away from the thing that got them to those double-digit wins year after year after year after year, and I think that's been the thing that has really held them back.
Yeah, I mean, no question. And was that a deliberate choice to do, or is it just the sort of thing where certain coaches have a way of finding that right formula, and other guys can try and replicate it, but can't or don't, and I don't know the answer to that question, but it is surprising how poor. It's more surprising, to get back to the original question, how bad Eastern Washington has been than how good Idaho has been to me. And I hope that Eastern does get up off the mat, and I think that they have a chance this year to maybe be marginally better than what they've been. Can they compete for a conference title? I don't think so. But can they give Montana State a game Saturday in Bozeman? Definitely. I mean, it's possible. So let's see what happens.
Well, I mean, shoot, they've given Montana State a game. They've played Montana State every year.
They actually have Montana State notes.
Last time they were in Bozeman, they got their asses kicked 2 years ago. But in Cheney last year, they took them all the way down the wire. Took that 7-yard Tommy Millott touchdown to break the game open. A couple years before that, when Tommy hit his head on the turf and got knocked out, and then Sean Chambers had to come in. The Cats had to have a 2-minute drill to rally in that game too, and they've been in the mix certainly. Last point on that though, how much do you think that these two factors we're talking about are associated with each other?
Yeah, I mean, what are they? 50 miles from each other, right?
Don't you think Idaho just took Eastern's spot at the table? Like they just kind of kicked them out and said, hey, we're going to sit right here in between Montana and Montana State instead of you guys anymore.
I think there's a lot to it. Like, is it surprising that Idaho is better than Eastern Washington? Like just the two of them? No, it is not. Right. Idaho has way more support at pretty much every level for athletics and for football than what Eastern Washington has. So that is really not a surprise. And also, the border matters, man. In Idaho, Idaho's the show. In Washington, Eastern Washington's about 14th on the list I mean, it just doesn't get the shine or the interest, that a state school like in Idaho, within Idaho or Montana or the Dakotas is going to get, and that's just the reality of it.
Okay, so your thoughts then on Eastern Washington's opponent this week, Montana State. What do you make of them only beating Mercyhurst 17-0?
Well, it's a question about offense because you can't do better defense like a 0 is a 0. So, shout out to the Cats D on that. I mean, they looked like they ran the ball effectively. They were very efficient through the air. I mean, it was like 17 of 21, but no touchdowns through the air, and there was an interception in there. Why this game was such a slog, and I'm sitting in the press box, I'm there at the same time, so I'm watching the Grizz game here with one eye, Montana State here on the other with the other eye. But you thought that it was going to be a game that is sort of going to just break open at some point, and it never really happened. And I mean, maybe we can give some credit to Mercyhurst for being better than we would have guessed. But Montana State would have liked to have had a much more convincing offensive performance than what they in fact had. And I think the Grizzlies had exactly the performance that they were looking for and got a lot of guys a lot of good vibes that they did not have coming even out of a win, but coming out of that North Dakota game. So, and now it starts for real, and it starts is not on ramping into conference play with Eastern Washington and Idaho, respectively. So this is a huge week, and an opportunity, obviously, for Montana State to get themselves to the next level. I think that they need to be at. I mean, the 0-2 start, I made absolutely nothing of it because of who they played and how they played. They've won their next 2 games. They're right where they're supposed to be by record. But then, to your point, we talked about this last week. When the opponents are so disparate from really good to really bad to you really got to put the eye test to the team that you're focused on more than you do the opponent. And I think that the eye test was very, very marginal returns for Montana State Saturday. So obviously, specifically offensively.
Hello, my name is Kelly Ayat, quarterback at the University of Montana. In the offseason, it's important to do everything you can to prepare for the season. In high school, that means funding your program. In my experience, Vertical Raise is the ultimate online fundraiser platform. They'll broaden your reach of your fundraiser and bring in more money than other platforms. And there are no sneaky or hidden fees like other companies. If you're trying to raise money for your program, reach out to Vertical Raise today.
Town Pump's Pump It Up Rewards Plus program and never pay full price for fuel again.
Save 5 cents on every gallon every day at any town pump across Montana.
Plus, earn and redeem points on your favorite in-store items to get free stuff with our clubs.
Stop in and pick up a rewards card. Download the Pump It Up Rewards Plus app today.
Or visit townpump.com/rewards to register and start saving.
Right down the road, pump it up. Oh,
Yeah, so much of it was possessions too, right? I mean, they scored on 3 of their 6 possessions. If you score on half your possessions in a normal game, you probably score between 38 and 52 points because you usually have twice.
6 possessions in a game is it's like 1927.
Right? Mercyhurst they punted on 4th and goal. Consider this. They punted on a 4th and goal. That is
we could use a little more context, but yes, they
sure, right. But that's how much they held on to the ball to the point where then they got some penalties to force them into a 4th and 42 so they could punt it rather than rather than going forward or what. It was just such a weird game. I'd just thrown it out the window. Okay, 2 questions about the Grizzlies, and I'll let you go. Kaylee Ayat, Big Sky Conference Player of the Week. Honestly, man, I didn't think these guys had it in them. And guess what? They let him cook last week, and he was getting through his reads. He was making the throws. I know Indiana State's not very good, but guess what, man? They threw the ball to the tight end in the middle of the field for a first down.
So weird, dude.
This is the first time they've done this since before the pandemic, I think.
I
Man.
mean, I dropped my nachos.
Like literally though. But I mean, I think that we all thought, not we all, but I think a lot of people that analyze this stuff for a living thought this guy just needs time. He needs to be able to work through some stuff. And if he does, he can really turn the corner and he can really accelerate. And I thought he showed the flash of what he could be down the stretch of that North Dakota game, but then he carried that confidence into this game. And I think if you are a Grizz football fan, you got to be just thrilled about what you saw on Saturday because, man, the kid is electric. He's so fun to watch. He's got so much personality. I mean, when Gilman had his second touchdown and Ayat's running him into the end zone and like wheeling him in, I mean, he's going to be a super duper star if they let that happen. But I thought his performance was pretty impressive, and I think a good thing for Montana going into conference play.
Well, you know where I've stood on Ayat from day one, and we saw this 2 years ago when he played some games as a freshman and saw both the flashes of what he can do as a player, but also just the vibe, the energy, the confidence, the star that he is and he can be. And I will never understand why the collective coaching staff decided to take the biggest, wettest blanket they could find and throw it right over the top of that for an entire season or more. And there's two ways to empower a player. One is to actually just empower him, like to go to him face to face and say, you're the guy. We believe in you. We know you can do it. We've seen you do it. Let's roll, baby. And I think that Ayat needs that, and I don't think this coaching staff is any good at doing that.
But what if they're actually changing though?
But here's the other way that you can instill confidence by your play calling and your game plan.
Yeah.
And you say, hey, we're going to let it rip today. And then you have to say effectively, even if you're not actually verbalizing it, you're our guy. Yeah. You're going to go rip it, and we're going to go roll. And so at least that half of the confidence building equation happened on Saturday for Montana. And I think that I'm not saying you have to. Ayat seems to me, personality-wise, what I've seen on the field, I've never spoken to him, okay? Never interviewed him, never talked to him. But you take a kid from a close-knit family, a lineage group in Hawaii, bring him to Missoula, Montana. You need to build that guy up. And if you do, he is going to light the place on fire in the best possible sense if you allow him to do that. But you have to build it into him to do it. And if this coaching staff can do that and is willing to, both actually day in and day out in the meetings and in the practices, and then in terms of the game plan and the way they go about it, then I think you're going to see one of the great quarterbacks in the Big Sky Conference be just that. That's what I think. And yeah, it's a bad football team they played. And yeah, different defenses present different problems and you do different game plans and you do whatever. Okay, fine. You got to let your best players be your best players. Okay? You got to give the ball to Gilman. You got to let Ayat throw the football, throw it to your 6'7" tight end in the middle of the football field for 9 yards and a first down. Make it easy and go do it. You know, that's what you got to do. So I thought, you know, kudos all the way around to Montana for this game Saturday. And I think they needed something like that to, like, you know, be like, okay, here it is. It wasn't just Central Washington, okay? Indiana State, how much better are they than Central Washington? Hard to say, but we've now seen it twice out of the Montana State offense. And even at the end, obviously, of the North Dakota game as well.
And they might be coming around, man.
Yeah.
Bobby Hauck said nice things about Kale Ayat in press conferences. He hasn't done the downplay, no stars. He said, my quarterback's playing well. He's playing better every week. We need him to keep getting better every week, but I like the progress he's making. He brought Ayat to the press conference this week. He said nice things about Ayat in front of Ayat. Like, when's the last time that happened?
I don't know. I want him to say nice things about Ayat to Ayat alone. That's the biggest question.
Indeed. I had a question about Eli Gilman, but we'll save it for next week because I think that's going to be added to the sample size. There's a brewing debate in Grizz Nation about Gilman's just pure talent and also the production that he's forging forward. He's certainly in the conversation, there's no doubt. We'll talk about that next week. But thanks for being here this week, man.
One final thing that I have to mention before we get out. And I realize this is very on the nose, and it's the most obvious thing in the whole world. And I don't want to make this more than it is, but it just brings me such joy, man. Tommy Running Rabbit is a running back for the Grizzlies from Browning, Montana, who gets in the game and scores a touchdown. He's got Running Rabbit on his nameplate, for God's sakes, and it is just beautiful. And I don't want to be, I don't want to do a lot of the other stuff about this, other than to say it just makes me so happy. And it is beautiful, man. It is such an uplifting Montana thing to have that kid with that name from that town playing football for the University of Montana. It is beautiful. And what a great run. I mean, he had multiple touchdowns, but that touchdown, I mean, that wasn't just a gimme. He went and got it done. So the more Running Rabbit I could get in my life, the better.
Yeah, I said this on Nuanez Now yesterday, and you can go check out the whole monologue, because I do think there's a distinct element that Indigenous people in Montana hold, and there is something very unique in both a positive and negative fashion about growing up on the reservation. And Tommy Running Rabbit, I believe, is the first person from the Blackfeet Nation to play football at the Division I level. And he's certainly the first person to play football for the Grizzlies, and he's certainly the first person to score a touchdown for the Grizzlies. And as we were saying Saturday night, is there, as of like 9 p.m., was there a person in Browning, Montana that hadn't heard that Tommy Running Rabbit had scored a touchdown? No. I'd say no. And that's 100%. That's what makes the tribal communities of Montana so special, is that everybody in that community, every person that lives in Browning, was celebrating in the joy of that moment. And it's so cool. I got goosebumps now just thinking about it. It's so awesome.
Well, it is. And, Brody Grebe is from where?
Melstone.
Yeah.
Like 101.
So 101 people who were maybe split or divided or didn't care whether, who they're rooting for, whatever, are all the hardest of hardcore Montana State fans because of one kid. Or two, I guess I should say. But you put a guy like Tommy Running Rabbit in there, obviously the reservations, man, they're playing hoops. And we've had a ton of great basketball players come from the reservations and be fantastic. And that is awesome. But I tell you what, you get one guy who comes up and does it playing football, and now you got 5, 6, 8, 10, 12-year-olds. You know what they want to do? They want to play some football, man. And I think that's awesome. So it just is it's just a great story all the way around. And I mean, his name is Running Rabbit, Colter. I mean, he's a running back, for God's sakes. This is like if he was a safety and his last name was Smashing Bear. I mean, it's that good.
So
good. It's just so perfect. So it's a thrill, and I can't wait to see more of him for the foreseeable future and beyond.
No doubt. Ryan Tootell here on the Big Sky Breakdown. Thanks for doing it.
Meeting her stopped your world. The ring you give her should stop her heart.
Tina, will you marry me?
Not again! Don't worry, I'm gonna fix this, because we want to be your jeweler! Aren't our beautiful diamond? Clear! Come back to me, Tina!
Are you okay?